I think on poultry, we have 2 awesome farms. I wish more people would come in here for poultry. I think the only place I know that gets small farm fresh chickens. Like, you can't find a fresh chicken from a small farm anywhere in Wisconsin.
You won't find them fresh. You'll find them frozen.
Everything's frozen.
Yeah.
And so like we worked with this farm, 9-Patch Farm, and they drive down here. They drive from the plant every other week and bring chickens down to us. And it's amazing because like just that opportunity to sell fresh chicken, like I don't think you've seen a small farm be able to do that in 20 years in Wisconsin. So we're excited about that. We also work with another poultry farmer, Nami Moon, who raises just like the coolest birds. Like when we opened up, like we had all these awesome like black silkies and Poussin.
We have some.
Yeah, let me show you. They raise these birds specifically for us, and like you can tell that it's a much smaller chicken, but like they still take like about 6 weeks to raise, whereas like a commercial bird takes 6 weeks to raise and it's 10 times the size. But this is like the most awesome flavor in a bird, as well as like much easier to cook because it's not as big, there's less bone, and it's super tender. And then we have our fresh sausages here. Fresh sausage, I think, is an art that has been lost as well. We make anywhere between 5 and 8 sausages in this case at all times. Currently we have a maple breakfast sausage, a lamb merguez, which is this one. A lot of times we really like beer and beef together, so we take a Saison beer here and mix it with some other fresh herbs, black pepper, and make a beef sausage that we like to sell. So every week we're doing like one different beer sausage because it's Wisconsin, right? Like, yeah. And then we have our traditional Wisconsin bratwurst, which we make by hand and isn't made in a huge factory like most of the brats you see at shops. Little known fact, I'm from Texas, so we do Texas style brisket. Even though I didn't grow up on very good Texas brisket, most of it was pretty garbage. But so this is a smoked brisket. We smoke it for around 18 hours using hickory and cherry wood, and then we sell it. We serve it sliced to go. We just started doing this, but it's a process that we're really excited about. So we're gonna cut into this one. So we're just gonna look here and see, you kind of see the meat's able to pull off with the knife there. So we're really happy with that. I think we cook it at a really low temperature so that it keeps the moisture in there, and we're really happy with kind of how that product has been coming out. It took us only about 4 years to develop this recipe.
Ooh, wow. That's really tender.
There's still a lot of work to be done, I guess, in terms of what's on the table right now. So yeah, I'm proud of the progress that I've made, but like I've got a long way to go. I didn't eat meat for 11 years. I think like a lot of people, I feel like I've heard so many interviews with other butchers in like newer shops, and so many people have that same kind of story. I didn't eat meat for a really long time, and then when I did start eating meat, I ate really bad meat for about a half of a year before I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is insane. You know, what was 11 years of that for? So I kind of considered not eating, meat again, and then I realized, that like while I was going to the farmer's market, that I had been avoiding like all the farms that had like naturally raised, near organic, if not like organic meats, and so I started buying things like that, and up until that point, I had no experience cooking with it, so then it like opened this new door of like cooking meats and proteins that I had no idea what I was doing, and I ruined a lot of great meat, but.
When we opened this shop, the idea was to kind of work with small farms here in South Central Wisconsin. That's it. That's what we do. This area of Wisconsin is just a bounty of amazing producers, and it took us a little while to be able to fill out our sourcing. I'm just going to stop and like look at the kind of how perfect that comes out of there, seamed out like that, versus. Could be cut on a bandsaw or something like that. We're getting full muscle definition there. Really nice. we don't have a big bandsaw. We're not bringing stuff in here in boxes and then cutting it out. We're doing muscle extraction and looking at the animal and like how seam cutting goes and stuff like that. And that's almost out of necessity.
Yeah.
And also kind of our preference too.
Funny because I came up like wanting to be a butcher, right? Like having this ideal that I was going to do that, and then it took like so many years of just cutting meat first before I could even see like this part of the animal, Top sirloin, the way you buy it in the grocery store, is 3 different muscles, and like now I'm going to steam it out for you, and you're going to enjoy it so much more, My most heated or whatever, like the question that I get just kind of like riled up about, like not with the customer, but that I want to explain as much as I can is the organics question versus organic standards. Like if a farm is raising animals up to organic standard, but they're not certified, you can't market it that way, right? Like you can't say like this is organic, like it's illegal. There's laws in place. So when people come in and just point blank fire away, like is all your meat all your meat is organic, right? And you're like, no, and then they like start to turn and you're like, but wait, like I just want to tell you why, like so much of it is going to be up to standard. It's a really expensive process for farms to go through, right? People know that, right? So in some instances it doesn't make sense because this might be only the second go a farm has had on raising cattle, and the finances just might not make sense for them. But beyond that, like there's all sorts of things to deal with, like organic integrity, like things can't touch things. Organic things are usually sold in bags because there's less of a chance that you're going to ruin their integrity of being organic. And so less people are touching it, or one person's touching it once, it's going in a bag, and then it's still organic until you get it home, and then it hits your countertop, and then like, you know what I mean? Is it still organic? I don't know, But there are all these weird rules and things that kind of make it really difficult, I think. We'd either have to go 100% ourselves or not, because they're in open air in a case, and it would be like the pork isn't organic, but the beef is. Like, how is that possible,
What it is kind of like where we are is like we kind of just leave it up to the farmers to like do what they want to do. So, we're not gonna bring in beef that's raised in confinement. We're not gonna bring in beef that is only fed corn. But if a farmer wants to vary the diet up through its life, like that's fine by us. What we're interested in is making sure that it's sustainably raised, that it's ethically raised, and that in the end that it's a good product. I think the thing for us is what I really look at is just the access to pasture and making sure that there's rotational grazing, making sure that the animals are treated really well and that the genetics that they care about is really important. And I know that like the word genetics can be a bad word in this industry, but we love like Scottish Highland beef or like some of the Black Angus that we see is really awesome. We're not as excited about, serving, dairy cow in here, because at the end of the day, people are eating it too, so.
So we cut this whole animal apart. Can you point out all the different cuts here? Or?
Yeah, definitely. We've got the heel, which comes off of the hind leg, the top sirloin, we've got the hip bone, and then we've got the eye of round. We've got some bone situation, and then we've got the tri-tip, a little kidney. This is the rest of the bottom round. And then you've got your tenderloin with all the fat that nobody wants on it. And we've got the whole hind shank with the I guess I didn't do a great job, but most of the heel removed. Split the bone in half, scrape the marrow out, mix it with olive oil, salt, and pepper, and stuff it back in and tie it. That's a pretty great roast that I've been trying to push, so I'm gonna like do a shameless plug on it. And then we've got the top round. It's a large muscle. It's usually cheap. Roast beef, right? But if you want to know how good an animal as a whole tastes, this is the cut that you go for. If you've got a farm that you're looking to get beef from, you ask them to send you this cut, and then you roast it and you taste it, because it has the most like balanced flavor. You're not going to get too much fat. You're not going to get too much lean. The texture isn't really necessarily what you're tasting for, but the taste itself is like captured in here really well. And I think roast beef is just like the way to go to taste how a whole animal's going to taste. So if you know you've got good beef like coming out of here, then the whole animal should be delicious as well. So that's the hind quarter, from the last rib of the animal to the rear leg. all this stuff has 100 different names, so I don't want anyone calling me out on what name I used.